Hey folks, another quick update video because I think I didn't make things clear enough in the last video apparently. So let's talk about my thoughts on the kind of roadmap of what we're going to see for products this year. So I think if you look at the D&D Beyond live schedule at noon on Thursday the 18th, it says D&D Adventure and Product Reveal. I believe they will announce in that this new Rime of the Frost Maiden or whatever the heck it is, Icewind Dale, the new book, adventure book, that will be announced. There's this gameplay reveal, so we'll probably get an intro game that somebody's running that's going to be Icewind Dale themed, and then boom, they'll announce the game at noon. Now it says adventure and product reveal, so that might just be showing you the physical book, or this may be when they also unveil what I think will be the Xanathar's 2 book that'll be coming at sometime in November. Now, the reason I say that is back at the Stream of Many Eyes two, maybe 3 years ago, the first kind of D&D live event, we had something similar to this. We had a gameplay kind of thing at the start at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then we had an adventure and product reveal. They announced that Tomb of Annihilation was going to be coming out, and if we look over here, Tomb of Annihilation came out on September 17th, or September 19th, rather, 2017. And then shortly after that initial video, they also announced that also coming in 2017 was going to be Xanathar's Guide to Everything. And if you look up here, Xanathar's launched towards the end of November. And if you think about this, this kind of release cadence is pretty much the standard that we had. So again, that was Tomb of Annihilation in September and Xanathar's in November. If we scroll up to 2018, we had Dragon Heist in September, then Dungeon of the Mad Mage in November. Then we also had Ravnica in November too. We had 2 books in November. Then last year in 19, we had Saltmarsh back in May. We had the Essentials Kit in September, but more importantly, the adventure was Baldur's Gate Descended to Avernus in September. And then, where is it? Eberron in November. So my point being with that is, last year at the previous D&D Live, we had Baldur's Gate. Basically everybody got Ghosts of Saltmarsh when you went there because that was the adventure that was already out. So my thought would be, if D&D Live happened the way it was originally planned, they probably would have given everybody a copy of Explorer's Guide to Wildemount because that adventure was already out. They would have announced that the upcoming adventure would be this Icewind Dale game, and that would be what all the gameplay was themed around. And then they also would have said that that's going to come out in September. And then also at some point during the D&D Live weekend, they would have announced that the upcoming class-based book would be coming out in November, and that would be whatever this Xanathar's 2 is. The only thing that's different is right now we already had Wildemount back in March, and we also had Theros just here in June and / July. So that kind of throws off the cadence a little bit. But I'm looking back. You know what I also forgot about? In 19, we also got Acquisitions Incorporated. So let me rephrase. Last year, it was Saltmarsh in May, Ac Inc. in June, Baldur's Gate in September, and then Eberron in November. So I think if we follow sort of that sort of a time frame. Oh, you know what? And I forgot about in May, we also got Mordenkainen. So that kind of threw off in 2018. So if you think about that, then yeah, that's Wildemount in March, Theros here in June, July. Sometime in September, we'll get this Icewind Dale adventure. And sometime probably around Thanksgiving towards the end of November, November 20th or so, we'll get Xanathar's 2. Okay, that's my potential roadmap. And I think, based on what they have on the D&D Live schedule, that most of that will probably be announced. Now look at that. They do have 2 hours devoted to this adventure and product reveal, which is why I think we're going to get both. And then, they're pretty much games throughout the weekend. And then they do have at noon on Friday and Saturday D&D product deep dive / panel. So they may dive more into the information that you're able to get. And I think that's pretty much it. So that's what I think we're going to get. Now, there's a couple of things that people have brought up in comments in the last video, and I wanted to address those. We did originally at the end of 2019 hear that there was going to be a sort of something, a module or a story written by several folks in the D&D community. I think I remember like a specific example was like one of the chapters or one of the adventures or something was going to be written by Deborah Ann Wall. So that was like, it's going to be her and maybe Matt Mercer. I don't know, a bunch of people were going to be tied into writing this. So originally, I thought maybe that was that Return to Glory book, the orc kind of adventure that was released. But that's pretty much just D&D writers, not like any, high profile celebrities. So, and the way it was described to me was it would be an anthology adventure similar to Ghosts of Saltmarsh or Tales from the Yawning Portal, where it was just a series of adventures to play through, not necessarily an actual story. My interpretation of this Icewind Dale game is that it is indeed a campaign that we will play through, rather than a collection of adventures penned by different folks. Maybe I'm wrong, and that's what Icewind Dale will actually be. It will be a collection of adventures that is put together by people from the D&D community. I don't know. Another thing that was also brought up that people mentioned was last year, there was a thing floating around that Chris Perkins had said, where more or less like, if you liked what I did with Curse of Strahd, you'll be very excited for what I'm working on in 2020. So does that mean there's going to be a Barovia-based thing coming out this year? I don't think so. So I believe that was the official wording, and I'm not sure what the exact tweet said off the top of my head. But for all we know, if it's a narrative adventure, this Icewind Dale game, then Chris Perkins will definitely be involved, right? He's the narrative designer for D&D. So if that's the case, then in theory, it could be like, you liked what I did in Curse of Strahd, you'll love what I'm working on next year. Well, that could be Icewind Dale, right? It could be written in a similar fashion in some way. Maybe it's got ties to Barovia and Icewind Dale. I doubt it, but maybe. And that could be that comment. Alternatively, the book that's coming out later this year in November, the one we're assuming is going to be the player-based source book, that might be Ravenloft Barovia themed, but still be a player resource, right? Xanathar's Guide is a player resource, but it's penned in the mindset of Xanathar. And the reason they did that is they have this philosophy where they want any adventure source book that you find to sound and read and be like something you'd find in the world. And by that I mean like Xanathar's Guide to Everything, or the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, or Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. Like, that's a book you could find in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, rather than like Player's Handbook 2, things we used to get back in older editions. They said they want to get away from that. That's why we don't have a Monster Manual 2. We have Volo's Guide to Monsters and Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, because they sound more like an in-universe book. It's a really weird stance to take, and I'm not like a super fan of it, but that's their mindset. And for the record, I don't remember where this was said. It was in an article or a post or an interview a long time ago, but it's stuck true since then. So that's where I'm coming up with that. Also, I said in my video from back in January that I felt that a player source book was coming, because this is what we received with all the Unearthed Arcana we got toward the end of 2019 is very reminiscent of we got towards the end of 2016 before Xanathar's launched. And what I said in my video again in January was similar. What I anticipated is we got a whole bunch of Unearthed Arcana at the end of 2016, and then probably in early 2020, like we had in early 2017, we'd have a few Unearthed Arcana releases that were revisions of anywhere between 3 to 5 different subclasses that were released in that initial push of Unearthed Arcana. And that would be to vet out ones that they thought needed more adjustment. And we've seen that. We saw subclasses we revisited, and we saw psionic options revisited. That is what happened back in 2016. Early 2017, we had a couple of different Unearthed Arcanas that were adjustments and revisions of things we received test Unearthed Arcana at the end of 2016. So that just, again, mirrors that whole process, which is why, again, I feel like in November, we're going to get this new, Xanathars 2. And again, we received our subclasses adjustment, revisits in early 2020. That means there's still enough time to finalize and make adjustments, tweak, and still get that to print for November. So they seem like they want to have these all be tied to a character. So what could the book in November be called? Well, I doubt it's going to be called Strahd's anything, if it is in any way tied to Barovia based on that tweet from Chris Perkins. Maybe it's Van Richten's, right? Van Richten's, manual to the plains. I don't know. Something like that. Van Richten's Monster Hunter manual. I don't know. Something like that. And that'll have a whole bunch of new classes in it. And, all the stuff that we want as players. And maybe that's what it'll be. Maybe it'll be Minsk. I would like Minsk's Guide to the Multiverse. I think that would be really cool, because in the D&D comics, Minsk goes to Barovia. So maybe there's a Barovia thing there. And there definitely seems like there was a planar concept with a lot of these subclasses, with Aberrant Mind and, Far Realm stuff and Mechanist stuff with the Clockwork sorcerer. So there's a lot of different options. So it seems like we're leaning more towards planar, at least in my mind. So maybe it is Minsk's Guide to the Multiverse. I don't know. These are just names that I'm throwing out there. I have no concept of any of this. I'm just trying to think. They seem to have picked quintessential characters to name them after, right? So we had Volo, we had Mordenkainen, we had Xanathar. The only one we didn't get one for was the Sword Coast Adventures Guide, but as I've stated, everybody forgets that book exists anyway. So they seem like they're probably going to pick up high-profile character. Minsk is a pretty good one. There's a lot of love for him. Van Richten, not so much in 5th edition. He had a lot of other books back in the day. It could be Drizzt, but I doubt it, especially if an Icewind Dale book's coming out. I figure if he's going to make an appearance, it would be there. But I don't know. So that's kind of my thoughts. I just wanted to put that out there and in my mind, clearly state why I'm saying what I'm saying and why I think the trajectory we'll get is why we'll get it. And then again, I don't know. We'll see. Also, for clarification, because I don't know, it came up quite a bit, and maybe I stumbled in one of my own videos. Who knows? My birthday is July 12th, not June 12th. Today is June 12th. My birthday is July 12th, which is, I'm hoping, in theory, to hit 50,000 subscribers on YouTube by my birthday on July 12th. We're at just shy of 40K now. It's a big ask. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I would love it if it did. So hopefully that spells out a little cleaner why I think what I think as far as when things will release and my thought process on what we'll actually get. I could be completely wrong, and it might just be a Barovia setting, kind of like how we had Eberron at the end of 2019, and that had some class stuff in it. Maybe that's what we'll, and races, maybe that's what it is. Maybe the November release was what Chris Perkins was talking about, and it's a Barovia campaign guide, or, Monster Hunter's Guide to Barovia, or something similar, like the, Eberron. Well, it was Eberron Rising from the Last War when it was originally the Wayfinder's Guide. So maybe it's, the Domains of Dread, and it's a whole Barovia, Ravenloft, and all the other ones source book that will have dark, spooky races, and then it'll also have dark, spooky subclasses. I don't know, but I am very curious what your thoughts are. Please leave them in the comments down below, and I will see you all next time.